No Radiant is capable of more than you. Yours is the power of connection, of joining men and worlds, minds and souls. Your surges are the greatest of all, though they will be impotent if you seek to wield them for mere battle. Bondsmiths are an order of the Knights Radiant from the Stormlight Archive. Within the wider Cosmere, you would think that some of the most powerful magic users would be perhaps Allomancers, or Windrunners, or even Elantrians. For most people, these are the magic users that first come to mind when you think of overpowered people in the Cosmere. But if you know Brandon Sanderson, you'll quickly realize that he doesn't always make things very obvious at first. I mean, even I had the same idea as I just mentioned when I thought of overpowered Cosmere magic. Now, however, after further consideration, I've come to realize just how wrong I was. It isn't Allomancers or Elantrians who are the most powerful in the Cosmere. It's the Bondsmiths from Roshar who hold near limitless power in their hands. Now, if you've seen my previous video, you'll remember how we established just what exactly a Bondsmith can do. If you haven't seen my previous video, I recommend watching that before you continue with this one. Now that we know the full potential of the Bondsmiths, we need to put it into terms that can be easily understood. We need to properly conceptualize the true upper limit of a Bondsmith's ability. So in today's video, we'll be looking at that and using it to determine just how powerful Bondsmiths really are. Now, without letting this video grow longer than it needs to be, let's jump right in. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that on this channel we regularly discuss all things Cosmere. So if that's the kind of content you're interested in, I would highly recommend subscribing if you haven't yet. It's easy, free, and remains the best way for you to catch regular Cosmere-focused content and when it comes out. I'm also aiming for the enormous goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers by my birthday this coming June. Helping me achieve this goal would be extremely awesome of you, and if you've already subscribed, I'd like to personally thank you for being such an amazing human being. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Adhesion. As surge binders, Bondsmiths have access to two different kinds of surges, adhesion and tension. Now, we haven't seen very much use of tension, and thus I can't speak specifically on it just yet. We have, however, seen the use of adhesion by a Bondsmith multiple times, and it is from adhesion that most of the power of a Bondsmith is derived. Now, for those of you who are unsure what adhesion is, allow me to explain. Adhesion is the surge that allows one to bind two things together. Often referred to as Honor's truest surge, adhesion is the surge of binding, bonds, and connection. And while Windrunners can use this surge to perform a full lashing that will stick objects together, Bondsmiths can use the surge for a much more interesting effect. You see, other than just simple adhesion that allows you to stick two items together, Bondsmiths can use adhesion to affect more than physical forces. Bondsmiths can use something called spiritual adhesion, which allows them to artificially forge spiritual connections between either themselves and others or between two other separate people or forces. Adhesion is the surge that allows them to manipulate spiritual connection, as we discussed in part 1. Now, a simple application of this is when a Bondsmith creates a temporary connection between themselves and others, allowing them the ability to speak and understand the other person's native language. This is quite innocent and, while very useful, not very dangerous or powerful. And thankfully, Honor placed limitations on a Bondsmith's power to avoid them doing too much to connection beyond this and a few other niche users. Unfortunately, however, Honor died a long time ago, and the limitations he made on Bondsmiths died with him. Bondsmiths Unchained. For most of Roshar's history, Bondsmiths were tightly controlled and kept in line by Honor. Due to the nature of Spren they bonded, no more than 3 could exist at a time. And due to Honor being a present overseer of the surges, strict rules and limits were placed on a Bondsmith's abilities. Then, after Honor's deaths, all the limitations he actively kept on the Bondsmiths started to degrade and wear away. Now, Bondsmiths are unchained and unrestrained. They can now fully activate and access their surges and their potential if they know how. And while Dalinar doesn't yet have the training needed to fully make use of this yet, he is actively seeking a teacher to show him how. Which brings us to the matter of Ishar. Ishar, the mad herald with all the powers and knowledge of a full bondsmith, with none of the limitations Honor had in place. We've seen Ishar do some crazy stuff, which gives some kind of indication of what a bondsmith could do. First, we've seen that Ishar can use spiritual adhesion to forge a connection between a Radiant and Roshar. The stormlight within the Radiant will flow into the ground, believing the planet to be a part of the Radiant's body. This completely drains the Radiant of any and all stored stormlight, so that already confirms to us that a bondsmith can effectively disarm any surge binder they meet. And then consider that bondsmiths can open perpendicularities and ensure that they themselves never run out of stormlight, and you can begin to see just how effective that would be in a battle. But that's nothing compared to some other things bondsmiths can do. Bondsmiths, it seems, can also steal the bonds of others. For example, Ishar nearly stole the bond between Dalinar and the Stormfather and took it for himself. And while this in and of itself is crazy enough, the implications are even more dire. Could a bondsmith steal Nahel bonds of other Radiants and have access to multiple surges? If a bond between men and Spren can be stolen, how about a bond between two people, or between a person and a place? Could Dalinar, for example, steal the connection between an Elantrian and the city of Elantris to add Aeon Dor to his own power set and effectively strip it away from the Elantrian? We know that Dalinar has started to gain the ability to see the connections between different people and between people in places. Think about it and bring to mind what I mentioned in the last video. A forger from Cell will take months and months to learn about a person's connections to try and alter it. A bondsmith, however, can just immediately see it and manipulate it directly. No need to learn and speculate, no need to carve fancy stamps and regularly apply it. Just use your unlimited access to Stormlight, physically see the connection and directly manipulate it. Bondsmiths clearly have a direct link with the spiritual realm if they're able to directly manipulate connection like that and create perpendicularities at a whim. In fact, the visions that Dalinar has from the Way of Kings are all connected to the spiritual realm. Since there's no time in the spiritual realm, he can see events from the past and just needs a bit of cognitive realm thrown in to give the vision form and substance. And yes, it's tapping into fortune directly, since it's not just a vision you can look at, but it's something you can interact with, despite being a scene from millennia ago. And we even see how Dalinar is gaining direct control of creating these visions as the Stormlight Archive has progressed. Consider the end of Rhythm of War with Kaladin's vision of Tien. Tien is grown up and talks directly to Kaladin despite having died years ago as a young kid. Dalinar's manipulation of the spiritual realm, however, makes it all possible. Also consider how Dalinar can accept oaths on the Stormfather's behalf or use the essence of the Stormfather to work oath gates. That would indicate that Dalinar is slowly gaining the ability to more directly manipulate the Stormfather and his power. And when you then realize that Honor's cognitive shadow somehow bonded with the Stormfather, you can start to see how Dalinar is beginning to slowly edge his way closer to the power of Honor itself. Does this mean he will become Honor like many theorize? I don't know, but the progression of his power so far does hint in that direction. So we know that bondsmiths are powerful, but now we can see that they have more abilities and potential than you first may have thought possible. They can generate their own stormlight, manipulate connection more thoroughly and dexterously than a forger can, and Dalinar himself seems to be slowly gaining some of the power of Honor. From this point we can only speculate, but I think it's quite clear what the implications are. Bondsmiths are overpowered in the Cosmere. They could take on even a prepared Elantrian, who I previously considered the most powerful magic users in the Cosmere. Regardless of which magic user faces them, they could likely manipulate connections sufficiently enough to ensure victory every time. But hey, I could be totally wrong on all of this. Do you agree with my analysis of Bondsmith's powers? Are they as overpowered as they seem, or am I missing something? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe as we try to gain some ground on the road to 10k. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.